Hello, everybody. What's up? West Coast Rolling coming at you. Dalton jumping back on, doing another live stream here, giving this another execution here, executing another live stream, seeing how it goes. Trying to with a few new changes here. This time I'm plugged in. I've got my tablet plugged in. I've got my mic plugged in. Happy Mother's Day to all of the mothers out there in the world. Hope all you moms are having a wonderful day. Have had a wonderful day. Having a wonderful day. Have had a wonderful day. I know I've had a busy day. I've been working today, but coming back at you here. Nothing but the rock star. We got another rock star drink, orange. Rockstar Recovery Energy Hydration. Live stream is brought to you by Rockstar. Okay. All right, real time, live time. I thought I would tonight make a talk about income and self-employment and share a little bit about my story and what I've been doing, and just engage in a little bit and engage in a dialogue and a discussion with you guys, and answer your questions you have. And I didn't have anything totally planned, and I have nothing scripted here. I have no agendas with my talk like this. It's just to engage and see what some of you other guys and gals are doing out there when it comes to income and self-employment while you are living and embarking on your dream life, living life on your own terms. That's what I talk a lot about on this channel, living your life on your own terms and setting up your life the way you want it to be, and overcoming whatever obstacles that are in your way, overcoming whatever negativity that's in your way, and succeeding on your own terms. And maybe that's freeing up more time to do more of what you want to do. So I see we've got one person watching. Thanks for watching. Got a thumbs up. Thanks for the thumbs up. Who's watching tonight? That's one of the if I don't actually like schedule a live stream in, then I'm probably not going to get a lot of people. I mean, whoever's going to watch is just, they're surfing on the internet right now. So it would definitely be a better idea in the future if I schedule these live streams. So I appreciate those of you tuning in and watching. Hey, Mike, what's up? Cooking and listening. Hey there, Roller. What's going on, Mike? Hey, good to see you, man. Good to see you again. So yeah, I'll just roll into it a little bit. Income and self-employment. And I guess what I'd like to do, because I know a lot of the people that watch my channel, I don't know entirely who everybody is. I know that there's a lot of people that just that tune in and watch because of the RVing topics and discussions. And then there's a lot of you too that are, I think, really interested in, creating a better life for yourself, doing something different. Maybe you've got some dreams about wanting to accomplish more in your life, and you're just not finding that through living, in the rat race per se. I'll say that. And so I know that part of my goals, and one of the reasons why I do live the way I do, is because I wanted to take back more control over my time, and I wanted to have more autonomy with it. And I think that's a great word, autonomy. And that's one of the things that I've learned here doing a lot of, I read a lot of books and I study a lot of things. I study everything from happiness to success to financial success. I'm always studying from different topics and a lot of things. And one of the things that I've become aware of here over the last year or so is the word autonomy. And it seems that that is the one word that describes most people who are very happy and happiness. it seems that they did a lot of research and study, and they found that autonomy over your own life is the one common denominator that made most people very, very happy in their lives. If you were to factor in everything in a person's life, everything from finances to relationships to it seemed that it was always coming back to autonomy. And what is autonomy? Autonomy, my meaning of autonomy is essentially having control over you're having control over your life, and not really putting it in the hands of somebody else, and basically being in control of your destiny. And I know that that's probably, if you guys were to ask me a lot of why do you do what you do? Why are you living in an RV, and why are you living a simple life and all this kind of things? And I would tell you that for myself, and it's going to be different for each and every one of you guys, and because we're all different and we're all unique. But I know for myself, it always comes back for me of having a level of control over my life. And I know I've mentioned, not being a slave, and I know that's we all have to serve somebody here, right? While we're here, I think one of the greatest songs, one of the great songs ever is Bob Dylan. One of the songs by Bob Dylan was, everybody's got to serve somebody, right? And so I'm not at all trying to. I guess I'm defending myself of what I just said, but I'm just defending myself in that when I say don't be a slave, I think that we all have to serve. We all have to serve somebody here in our lives. But I come across it and there's just nothing worse to me than feeling like you're this rat in this cage and you're going around and around trying to achieve a different result, and like you keep doing the same thing over and over again, trying to achieve a different result. And that is the definition of insanity. So I know that's one of the things I preach a lot about on this channel is you have to think differently, and I talk about rewiring your brain. You have to, in order to live a life like no one other, you have to think like not everybody, and you have to do different things, right? So where am I going here? 7 people watching. Thanks for watching. If you guys have some comments or some suggestions, please comment below. So living a life and being in control of your destiny. I know that for me, for many years of my life, I wasn't an employee. For probably a good 15 years of my life after I graduated from high school, I was an employee. I was working for other people, and I had I always had pretty good jobs that paid well and everything like that, excellent benefits and so forth. But there came a point where I really wanted to go out on my own. And I wanted to work for myself, and I wanted to be that in control of my destiny. Okay, and I know that for myself, it's taken me a long time to develop the courage to go out on my own and try new things and give up comfort, give up security. Grateful Days, hey, what's up, man? How you doing? It's taken me a large part of my life, I know, to get where I am today. Like on my own, working for myself, and I'm still figuring it out as I go. I don't have all of the answers, but I've certainly learned a lot, and that's kind of where I'm giving this talk right now, just sharing up, where I am, and this whole discussion of income and self-employment as it regards to, living more of a nomadic life, living, wherever you are. Every one of us has a different story. We got a different situation, and we all have different goals. Some of us we don't want to work for ourselves. Some of us want to, we actually want to, take a traditional path, and there's certainly nothing wrong with that. But I think that, most of the people that I think are watching this, that are on, that are on my channel, I think most of you guys are driven by freedom. And I know that's the number one thing that drives me the most besides being in control of my destiny, having a level of autonomy in my life over, everything, such as, this fifth wheel. I was just telling Bobby tonight, I came home, and I'm just like, I love my little house here because I own it and it does not own me, and I can move it places, and so it gives me a level of autonomy over my life that I'd never had before when I lived in with different living arrangements. So I know for me, yes, it's been, the path to working for myself. I mean, I look now, what I look at as is my past, as far as a lot of the jobs I had in the prior careers I had, because I've had several careers. I've had different careers, probably just like many of you guys and gals. And for myself right now, being self-employed, I look back on everything I've done up to this point, and I look at a lot of it as an apprenticeship program. Like I've been apprenticing all along for the time to eventually go out on my own and work for myself, because the skill sets that it takes to work for yourself versus working for somebody else, showing up, at a job with a plan and everything in place, and there's a lot of great things with that. It takes a different set of skills, and you have to really I think you have to be a lot more hungry to work for yourself, and I think that you have to think a lot bigger too. Like an example, this book right here I'm reading right now, it's called The Magic of Thinking Big, classic book, but I think in order to you got to think bigger. The size of how big you think or how small you think has a lot to do with your success working for yourself. And I also think that your motivations, I know for myself, like I've had my own challenges with earning an income myself, and I know what keeps me personally motivated is that I always think about, I know what is the alternative, like what's the alternative, and like I know what the alternative is, and honestly, like I don't want that, I don't want that alternative. And what the alternative is it's punching out a clock for 40 hours a week, or or whatever it is on somebody else's dime, building somebody else's dream essentially. And so that does keep me motivated and keep me going. But so who else? Who we got on here? Who's watching right now? I see Mike. I see Grateful Days. Thanks for the thumbs up, guys. So, see, Mike, this is a good book. Read it some years ago. Yeah. I've read The Magic of Thinking Big. It's it had the core thesis with the book is to think bigger. And I know that because we're all I think from time to time it's really easy to think small, and thinking big is really the solutions to solving the bigger problems of your life, right? Like, how do I achieve more freedom in my life? How do I achieve how do I earn the income that I want to live my desired life? And that requires it requires some big thinking. It requires some big thinking, and it requires a lot of action. It requires a lot of execution, and you're certainly not going to get there on smaller thinking. And I was having a discussion with Bobby the other day, talking about some of my goals that I have. And, one of the things that I'm always telling myself is that what got me here, like where I am today, it's going to take everything that it's taken to get here, plus a bunch of more things in order to get here, like to get further ahead of where I want to be. And simultaneously, people who are very successful, they figure out how to achieve, how to do it all. And I know that's one of the crux of being, working for yourself is you do sometimes feel like you're doing everything, and because you are doing everything, and because you're responsible for your own success. But I know that what got me here isn't going to get me like here. I'm going to need to think bigger. I'm going to need to take some different actions and, have some different disciplines, but probably more importantly, have like a bigger why, the motivating, driving factor of why I want that or why I want to be here. And so I know that that's something that I'm constantly working on myself, and to develop that burning desire, because it's just so easy to get comfortable with like where you are and everything, and just even living in this living in the RV, and like literally slashing more than half of my expenses that I previously had. I tend to get comfortable. It's very easy to slip into that comfort zone, and I know that for me, I always tell Bobby the comfort zone is the failure zone. Once you start getting comfortable, you sort of start to slip into the failure and the mediocrity. And so anyways, I was just curious what you guys, any input that you guys had on this, and any feedback. What has worked for you in your life, on your journey to achieve a good situation for yourself, achieve the income that you want, achieve the desired life you want, achieve the amount of time freedom that you want. That's a really interesting discussion in itself, time freedom. And I think that as a society, like just globally, I think as we continue into the future, it seems to me that more and more people are really getting a hold of this idea of time freedom. Having freedom in your life, more freedom in your life, to just having more control over that, and instead of chasing after certain material things. And there isn't anything wrong with material things in my book, but if they're certainly causing you to be more of that slave person in your life where it owns you and you don't own it, then I think that that's something worth looking into, and reflecting on. So I'm just going to read some of your guys' comments here. Hey, Tina, what's going on? Good to see you. Let's see. What was the book, Mike? Well, that book is called, this one here. One of the books I'm reading right now, The Magic of Thinking Big by David Schwartz, PhD. I'm about halfway through it. I've owned this book for years, and I'm finally getting around to reading it. So that's another little message. The book that you don't read, it will never help you. If you never read it, it will never help you. It'll just you'll just have a bookshelf that's you'll have an intellectually smart bookshelf. So The Magic of Thinking Big. And I read a lot of books, and I'd be more than happy to share a few other books with you guys that have like made a huge impact on me in terms of my thinking about just like a lot of things, and I tend to be really attracted to a lot of the the real radical kind of paradigm shifting books. There's another book here that I'm gonna grab and show you guys. This book here, arguably, it may actually be one of my top favorite books in the terms of in the terms of business, lifestyle, entrepreneurship, and working for yourself, being in control of your destiny, having an internal locus of control over your life. It's this book right here. It's called Unscripted by M.J. DeMarco. And he also wrote another book called The Millionaire Fastlane, which, if you have an interest in really understanding what it takes to be successful financially, like in life, and really what it means, and not your typical your typical guru financial book, just save money, get out of debt, and all this kind of stuff. No, it's a completely different a different book. But read everything by M.J. DeMarco. I highly, highly recommend him. And this book here, Unscripted, he talks about the script that, you know, we've all been led, we've all been fed our entire lives, for better or for worse, okay? And he exposes, you know, the myths and the lies about everything. Just there's business, finance, and it's a very thought-provoking book. And if you're not like woken up to, if you're not kind of woken up to on a few things when it comes to, you know, just personal, your personal life, your personal affairs, money, business, finance, lifestyle. This is I highly recommend this book. This is probably, right now it's one of my favorite books, but it's not a, it's kind of a, I mean, you guys have probably heard like the red pill, blue pill analogy. If you don't know what I'm talking about, just watch some videos, but this is a very red pill book. So basically, what is the red pill, the blue pill? It's, you know, the red pill is arguably it's the truth, you know, the truths in life. Doesn't matter, you know, the truths in life can be really hard to swallow and hard to sometimes even believe. But the theory with the red pill, you know, the sooner that you swallow the red pill, the sooner that you can like get on with your life and take full responsibility for everything that happens, and you can go out and, you know, really just take charge of your own life. And that's really what I preach. I don't preach anything, but I'm just sharing with you guys some of my my opinions and some of my ideas. And I know that, and I certainly respect all of your guys's as well. Being my own boss will allow me more freedom with my time. Time is your life energy. How do you choose? How do you choose to spend it? Yes, absolutely. It really, really, really is. It's, your time is the most valuable thing that we have. And I know that's also something that MJ also talks about in this book too, is that time, you know, it's not money. Money is not the most valuable thing that we have. I mean, money is only a tool, but it's our time, the value that we put on our time. Our time is the most valuable thing, asset, commodity that we as human beings, we possess. And what do we choose to do with it? And, you know, do we choose to sell our time, our soul for $10 an hour at, you know, at a dead end job? Or do we choose to maybe to invest that in, you know, authoring a book or doing something that we can scale? You know, how do we choose to spend our time? But it makes sense, I know, in financial terms, and it also makes a lot of sense just in, you know, just in your life, you know, your life energy. And I know that there's a lot of us that are in certain circumstances where we may have lost some of our health, we may have lost some of our wealth, and we've realized that, you know, there are things that we want to do, and we're not getting any younger. We're only getting older, and it does make a lot of sense to do them. And I know I can certainly relate with that. You know, I basically, my story, I worked as soon as I graduated high school. I went into full-time employment, and I pretty much worked for the next 15 years. And yes, I mean, I took vacations and everything, but it wasn't until I, you know, bought the camper and moved to Oregon and did a few other things that I really had time, okay, available. And some would say, well, you bought yourself time. And yes, that's one of the things that money can do, is money can buy you a lot of time. It can buy you a lot of time, okay? People that are retired or, you know, have incomes, I mean, they have bought their time. They don't have to trade their time for, you know, to earn money. They've already, you know, they spent many years of their life doing that. Time's out. Grateful Days. Turns out we really do like each other. Haha. But who knew when we worked 100 hours a week, paying $7,000 a month in bills? Yeah. yeah, it's there's something also great too when when you figure out a way to reduce your expenses and or change how you make your income. You can free up more time in your life to be with your girlfriend, your spouse, or a boyfriend, whoever. And absolutely, that can give a lot more meaning to life. And there's a lot of things that I know have happened to me since I know when I first started living this way or whatever, and giving up my $60,000 a year job that I had with the big career and the long commute and the big house and all the bills and at first I kind of thought like I was a little bit crazy, because like we're taught things like, oh, you're too young, and you're too young to do that, and you're too young, and it's like, really, well, why am I too young? Why am I too young to do that? Why am I too young to change up my lifestyle so that it works better for me? Why do I have to summon myself to somebody else's programming, somebody else's conditioning? And why can't I just go out and figure out how to win and make a great life for myself? Money or Your Life, that clicked for me. Yes, I read that book. I read that book about over 10 years ago, and that was another great. That was another great book in the terms of, I remember that book was talking a lot about the math involved in the equation of you're working this many hours for for this wage, or how much. It's been a few years since I've read that book, and I'm trying to remember exactly what the thesis was, but there was a very powerful takeaway in that book. And I think it had more to do with, how much money, how much time you were trading for what you were earning. So, yeah, absolutely. Rich Dad, Poor Dad motivated me to open my own corporation, which lasted 13 years, and then I went full-time RVing soon after that. I do not agree with everything in his book, but the end motivated me. Yeah, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Wow, that's a story for me. My story with the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad, that was the first book that I read that put me on a path of personal development, learning about money, finance, and business. And before I read that book, I was pretty much really clueless, and I really didn't understand how the world really worked in terms of business, money, finance. And after I read that book, it gave me a lot of clues as to what was behind this curtain, and what was on the other side, and was that really good? Was that evil or whatever? And that book really, it completely blew me away. It was one of the very first books that I read where I genuinely developed this interest in it. And the ironic thing is about the book Rich Dad Poor Dad. A lot of people forget, or they don't realize this, but that book Rich Dad Poor Dad was actually a book about accounting. Understanding the difference between an asset and a liability. And what the takeaway for me on that book was, like, you want to buy assets, not liabilities. And if you want to buy liabilities, you need to make your assets pay for your liabilities. So if you want to buy a house or whatever, well, go buy an income producing piece of real estate that's going to pay for your house or your car or what have you. And he gave a lot of explanations in there. But when I look back, I mean, that book at first, like, I was all just crazy about that book. And then as I kind of went on and gained more knowledge and wisdom about money and finance and business, I realized that the book was really about accounting, my takeaway on it. But yes, nonetheless, that book did it for me. It totally changed my thinking and reality about a lot of things that I believe to be true, and everything that I grew up in a real middle class family, middle class, upper middle class family, and the only financial advice that we were pretty much told was just go to school, get a good job. If you could get an education, great. But it was all about getting a good job, getting the benefits, and as we've seen today and going into the future, that's being proven statistically as being very, very poor advice. I mean, that advice, it worked for past generations, and it worked very well. It worked very well for my mom and dad. I mean, my dad, he worked for the utility company for like 17 years, and then he went to telecommunications, the field of telecommunications, and that's where he finished his career. But like, he had a good, solid career with a long company, and that's automation is changing that. Automation's changing things. Artificial intelligence is changing things, and people are being replaced. Okay, and technology is replacing people, and there's some days where I ask myself, it's like, I don't understand why, sometimes it seems to me like people are just not important anymore to, I don't know, it's just, we're trying to like, replace ourselves. And so anyways, I know that's a whole another thing, but I think that, as technology unfolds, I think that we'll realize that there is a lot of great benefits with it. I mean, the smartphone has arguably changed the world, and when the smartphone first came out, a lot of people, they didn't think that it was going to be a big deal, or they're like, oh yeah, whatever, the smartphone, I mean, that's not going to work. And it did. Ended up becoming one of the greatest technological advances of our of this new century here. So Rich Dad Poor Dad. The Millionaire Next Door is another amazing book. Yeah, I've read both The Millionaire Next Door and The Millionaire Mind. I liked The Millionaire Mind. What I liked about those books is the information was hard DNA, like statistical evidence. It wasn't merely opinions, but they did some pretty thorough study over a period of years, and they discovered that the people that were wealthy in America, or even other parts of the world, it wasn't what you thought. It wasn't what you thought. They drove Ford Tauruses, and they lived in, neighborhoods with Ramblers, $80,000 worth Ramblers or whatever. But I guess, things are, technology is really advancing a lot of things now. And I think that, I think some of the case studies in that book, I mean, some of the principles like will never change, but I know that, I mean, it seemed there were a lot of cases in those books, or in that book, where a lot of those people, they lived their lives like as paupers. They saved and they pinched pennies their entire life, and then they lived in like a cardboard box in their older years. And so I think personally, some of the data and some of the information is a little flawed. I mean, like, I think a lot of the people in those books, or in that book, they were collectors. They collected money, and they thought that it was all about, collecting money. And of course it can kind of go both ways. But yeah, they're both very, very good books to disprove, or not disprove, but to debate a lot of the theories and the myths and the lies surrounding money and finance in our society in America. I mean, like, it really does. I mean, the people that you think like are really wealthy and well off, they're not. People that live in Hollywood and you think that they're like uber rich, they're not. They're actually they're high income people. They make a lot of high income, but that's what's that Texas saying, all hat no cattle. And they have nothing. I mean, they're just and we've seen story after story of people who've like the sports athletes who like made $50 million and they're completely bankrupt. They have nothing to show for it. So the principles in those books, I think, are totally timeless. But personally, I would never want to live like some of those people lived in some of the stories. Yeah, it opened my mind because I mean, and the other cool stories and the other cool stories that I really liked in those books is I think that they did a great job also about talking about innovation and innovation, like the people that they collected garbage, and um, these guys were like they were really rich off of the trash business, and I think we've seen also that on one of also my favorite programs, which was done by Mike Rowe of Dirty Jobs, and he just said that there's a lot of people that, and he's actually one of the people that I think he has a lot of great career advice, I think, in terms of like talking about passion and he thinks that passion is something that you eventually, there were people that like pumped feces for a living, shit for a living, and over time they developed a passion for what they did because they became really good at what they did. They weren't passionate about pumping, or they weren't passionate about collecting trash, but they learned to be passionate about it because they became really good at what they did. And I think that that's excellent advice for anybody in terms of passion, because it's this word passion is so, in my opinion, so overused, and it's just a complete, the way people use it to me is just a bunch of garbage. Yeah, I went. Yeah, the millionaire next door, research. Canon is that what Quanon or Canon? What are you saying there? Thanks for the thumbs up, guys. 9 people watching. QAnon. Okay, what is QAnon? Grateful Days. One of the ways you learn how to act at the top when successful is by starting at the bottom. Yeah, absolutely. Yep, absolutely, man. I tend to my attitude is like I said, I look back at everything I've done, and I've looked at like my whole life is like this one big apprenticeship program, and I'm hoping is a bad word to use, but I've learned that our whole life we're really seeking to gain wisdom, and through part of that is failing. It's trying a lot of things. It's not necessarily getting exactly what you want, and learning as much as you can from a situation, and even that situation may be you really mess something up. I mean, you really screw something up bad. Maybe you get fired over something. Well, getting fired over something can actually, in my book, it can be a great thing because you learn what not to do. You learn what not to do again. Okay. And so there's all these lessons we have in our lives. And I think that in school, they don't teach it. They don't teach you that. They don't teach you that, like, your whole life. There's a lot of things you can do, but I guess, you can learn. You can learn from people who are really smart. And when I say smart, I just mean people who are really experienced. And I know that's what a lot of successful people do is they find the people who are very successful at the thing that they want to do, and they model after them. And that's really the best advice to give. But when you don't have anybody to model after, the only way to learn is to go out there and do it and take massive action. And I've never met a successful person who has disagreed with taking massive action or just going out there and, failing your way to success or whatever. And I know there's a few different viewpoints on that. But if you have all the resources in the world, then I guess, you can get coaches, you can get mentors, but if you don't have access to that, then you have to learn by doing. Gary, what's up? How's it going? Cheers from India. Great channel, by the way. Hey, thanks, Gary. I'm doing great. How are you doing in India? What time is it right now in India? Agree on the flip side, Tina, or laid off can be a blessing. Absolutely. And it's happened to me, and I've had some very gut wrenching experiences with, being fired. And I've had some bad things happen to me, especially when I was younger and naive, like just lacking wisdom, lacking life experience. And to me, it's all part of life. Like but I don't see it as a negative thing. I see it as a positive thing because all these things, the worst part is to go through a really negative experience, I think, and repeat it. Like that's the absolute worst thing to do. If you're doing that, then you need to really reassess. You need to reassess some of your decisions and your choices that you're making. But absolutely, it's been said like, life is a journey or whatever, and that's kind of an interesting one. Recently, there's a guy that I've been listening to, and he one of the I'm trying to think what his name is. He's a billionaire, and he's got a YouTube channel. He's very vocal. He's got a sailor mouth. But one of the things that he talked about was he said life is not a journey. Life is going from point A to point B, and from point B to point C. Like you have a point in the direction where you're going, and it's not like this journey, right? Where you, according to him, where it's like, oh well, let's just see what happens. And I really tend to agree with that. I think that it has to be more about. I think you have to be more decisive about like where you're going and where you're headed than just calling it a journey, and I know I have said that on my channel about, this being I'm on a journey, but I'm really actually not trying to use that word as much anymore. I'm trying to actually say things like this is the path I'm on, or this is where I'm going, and this is the direction, and I think it makes a lot more sense to me saying that, I'm at point A right now and I'm going to point B, okay? And yeah. My boyfriend ended up starting his own business and it worked out very well. Yeah, good. Yeah, that's good. Good for him. Yeah. You go out on your own. You may make more money than you did before, or you may not make much money at all, and you may not make any money for a couple of years. But I think that you're still going to be in a better situation because you're thinking long term. And there are no guarantees with anything. There's no guarantees, and I think, and then of course, it all comes back to risk. And this is an interesting topic to me, risk. And risk is something that everybody has a different meaning on, the meaning that they attach to risk, and how much that you want to take on, what you think is risky, what you don't think is risky. It's like, I know it's very interesting when you hear certain people's paradigm on risk. And, when somebody talks about working for somebody else and they're like, oh my God, that's really risky, because you're putting all of the control, you're giving up all of your time, and you're giving up all of your control to them. And so people will say that that's a very risky proposition. Of course, if you're broke and you have, you have yourself to feed, you have kids to feed, then you need to do whatever it takes. But the discussion of risk is a really interesting one. And I find it is also one that people don't really analyze enough, because what one person thinks is risky, another person could think that like it's really smart to take that step. So risk is and how we evaluate how much risk we're willing to take is, everyone is going to be a little bit different on that. $4:15 a.m. Wow. Yeah, I was talking to my mom and dad. My mom and dad are in Scotland right now, and they said that it's an 8-hour time zone difference between there and here in the Northwest. So Yeah, they're my mom and dad are in Scotland visiting for the first time. They said that the people there are really really nice, nicer than the people in Ireland. They were saying so. Yeah, thumbs up for Scotland. Mike, when you are the best at something, you can open your own business more easily. Being specialized at something is the key. You do not need to be a professional. That is certainly desirable too. Cool. Yeah, absolutely. Being a professional in whatever niche that you're in, absolutely. And there's so many different niches that each one of us has experience in, and it could be everything from, if you know how to wash windows, if you know how to clean, or that's a niche that you can go into, or and then of course there's so much I personally think value in working for very companies that are very very successful. Like for example, like if you wanted to go out and start, and I don't, you wouldn't be able to do it, but this is probably a bad example. But my point I'm making is if you want to go into a field or an industry, it makes a lot of sense to go and work for the people who are the best at it, who have already the best business in the industry. For example, the shipping business, UPS is arguably probably one of the, the, if not the best, like, systems and shipper, and they, I've worked for them and they're very, very good. And you learn a lot when you work for them and how they do things. And then, so when you spin off and go work for yourself, that can put yourself at a real advantage with your competition. So yeah, going back to absolutely having specialized knowledge about something. Absolutely. And I think that specialized knowledge can come in many different forms. About something. I mean, I can already think of a lot of different things. Painting cars. Like, I've been reading about people who they're going out and buying painting equipment, and they're painting cars. And that's just kind of one like little specialized niche. Where do you see yourself in 5 to 10 years? That is a great question. I have never thought of myself as a visionary. I think that's been one of my greater challenges I think I've had in my life is the long game. It's the long game. And honestly, where do I see myself? Well, I mean, ultimately, for me, I have a strong desire. I mean, I have my own financial goals of where I want to be, and I really, really want to be mobily earning the income that I want to earn. And so, that's really where I see myself. But as far as some of my financial goals, I mean, that's one of them that I see for myself. And I don't know, honestly, like I said, I know where I don't want to be. And so I think maybe sometimes that may have more power over my life than where I want to be. But you do need to be clear about where you want to be. One guy that I've been following here as of recent, guy by the name of Ed Milet. And I don't know if you guys may have heard of him. He has a YouTube channel, Ed Milet. He's an extremely successful businessman. And one of the things that he has a podcast, you can check him out either on iTunes or on Spotify. And one of the things that he talks about is you have to be crystal clear about what it is that you want. And if you're not, then like you're going to struggle. You're going to struggle the whole time. And so I personally have struggled with that. I have struggled with being crystal clear about exactly what it is that I want. And I really have always admired people who know exactly what they want, and they just move like right toward it, And I know I've always had challenges with that because in my mind, I'm thinking about everything I got to do now. I mean, I've got to pay my bills. I got to do this and this, right? I got to pay the lousy bills, right? But it's like if you put all your focus on that, then it's going to take away from where you want to be, like crystal clear. So clarity leads to power, and I think that's is something that I'm probably learning, more doing this live stream right now. I know I'm sharing and talking about a lot of different things, but I'm actually getting a lot out of this for me, and sharing with you guys some of the things that I struggle with. But clarity, absolutely, you got to be crystal clear about what it is that you really want. And it's easier said than done because most of us, including myself, I mean, we've got a lot of things on our plate already. We're working 40, 60 hours a week, and we're trying to figure out like how we're going to get to this point. And it's tough. There are no easy answers. There's no easy solutions. Of course, I've found that moving into my fifth wheel has reduced the amount of resources, capital that I need to come up with every month to live my life. And that has taken off a huge burden. And I know that that's one of the solutions that, that I offer and I talk about. And so I think that it does play into, it does definitely play into the future in freeing up more time so that I can use that time to work on my goals. Where of your question, where do I see myself in 10 years? So when you have enough jerk off bosses, that can certainly expand your research into option to make work and life more pleasant and profitable. Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. I've had my fair share of jerk off bosses, and I've also had some great bosses, people that like I looked up to, but it's been a while. It's been a while since I've had like a boss. I don't know what it is, but it seems like bosses that are leaders are like non-existent nowadays. It just seems like there's very few bosses anymore that are real leaders, And what's a leader? A leader is somebody who, like, they see you and they want to develop you. It just seems like nobody wants to, in the corporate world, or nobody wants to develop anybody anymore. Everybody just wants to, like, you either get the results, you get the outcome, or you're fired. And it's like nobody, this whole thing about developing people, it seems like it's just not, it's something in business that it's becoming very unimportant. And I do admire the company. If you want to work for somebody else, this is my advice. You need to find out who the best is in the business. You need to find out who the best company is, and you need to go work for them. Like, you need to figure out, that's what you need to do. If you want to be an employee, you got to find out who's the best company in your niche, in your industry, and you need to go work for them, and you need to pay whatever price necessary. That's my personal opinion, because there are some great companies out there who do things on the up and up, and then there are some just real trashy companies out there where they literally only care about the bottom line, and people are dispensable. So disposable, dispensable, whatever. For me, I need to make my goals written out and detailed. Yeah. One of the things that I was doing for a little while, I need to get back to doing it, which was writing out my goals in the morning and before I go to bed. And it's nothing more than just taking out a piece of, a spiral notebook and writing down the goals in the present tense. And there's a lot of people that will say that you should write them out as if they've already been achieved. And so I've been doing that. And what I've found when I write out my goals, like in the morning, at night, what I've found is that it helps my focus, and I'm focused on it, and the subconscious mind, it picks it up and it works on it. And so I begin to with the theory, the law of attraction, you begin to attract in to you people, circumstances into your life that's in harmony with your dominant thoughts. And that's what writing down your goals every day does. And it is extremely powerful. The challenge is to break your past conditioning and your past habits, bad habits of like not doing it or just leaving it to chance. And so that's also one of the things that every single person who I've ever met or heard from who's very successful, like I'm just talking about all areas of life, they all say the same thing, you know, write the habit of writing down your goals every day and, you know, getting emotional about it, visualization. It's powerful stuff and it works. It really does work. And I think that the only reason people don't do it is because they just don't believe it works. Because I think if they knew it worked, if it believed it worked, some people just don't do it long enough so they can see the results. Long enough would be like, you know, 45 days of doing it. So, yeah, that's what I know. That's what I know about that. Plenty of sheeple. There are plenty of sheeple. Yep, there are. Plenty of sheeple. Thanks for the thumbs up, guys. We're almost at an hour here. I'm constantly fighting the lazy person in me. The lazy person in me, yeah, me too. Absolutely, man. Yeah, laziness is absolutely. I fight that as well. You know, and it's kind of you're trying to like take shortcuts and everything, and it just seems that when when you're looking for shortcuts, at least for myself, when I'm looking for shortcuts, like everything just ends up worse than it was off before. And yeah, there are no shortcuts to success in life. And I think that's one of the reasons why most people never really get what they want, because they're constantly looking for shortcuts. They're constantly looking for an easier path to get what they want, and there just simply isn't. You have to pay the price, in full upfront to get the result, to get what it is. You got to go through the pain, as they say. No pain, no gain. But yeah, I hear you, man. Laziness. It gets the best of us. My goals: 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, up to 5 years. Yep, absolutely. Like, what's gonna be the most effective for you? Because we're all going to be a little bit different, I believe, and you got to figure out, like, what's that burning, the most burning thing. I'm Brian Tracy. I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard of him. I used to listen to a lot of his work, and he was always just talking about, making a list of your 10 things and then figuring out the one or the two things that would make the most difference, like that would help you achieve everything else that you wanted. What would be the one thing, right? That's another good book, great book, called The One Thing by Keller, like the Keller, Gary Keller, I believe. Gary Keller, The One Thing. That's a great book, talking about narrowing down your life to the one thing that is going to move you closer to getting what it is that you want, at whatever your circumstances, whatever stage you are in your life. What's the one thing, But going off on another tangent there, it really becomes a reality and a motivator that becomes perpetual all on its own. Absolutely. Yeah, it totally does, because whether you believe it or not, you're using the universal laws, like the law of attraction, to attract in the people and the circumstances that are in harmony with your most dominant thoughts. And it's very powerful. It's extremely powerful. Visualization is another one that I know I do all the time, and I visualize things, and I hold that image in my mind that I want. People talk about, where do you want to be 5-10 years from now? I do that. I hold an image of like where I see myself, and that does help a lot too with just the whole picture of creating your life. You're creating your life. Creating the life that you want to live, rather than just leaving it to chance and saying things like, "Oh, well, that's for other people. That's for those people. That's for those guys," or like, "Oh, that's only for rich people," whatever. No, I mean, like, it's for everybody. Like, when you really understand the principles, it's applicable to everyone. And that's what I know. So, guys, I think I'm gonna end it here, an hour. So, um, it's another swig of the rock star. The stuff is actually pretty good. This is the orange flavored, orange flavored rock star, saying only 10 calories. Are these guys publicly traded? Publicly traded company? You're welcome, Tina. Hey, thanks for coming on. Thanks for watching, and thanks for engaging. Everybody, thanks for engaging and having a little discussion here. And yeah, leave a comment. What other topics that you guys would like to talk about, or anything in particular, anything you guys want to talk about, and I'll do some more live streams like this. I'm just trying to figure out how on this platform we're doing live streams, like what's going to work good, and what's going to be not boring for everybody. So and be a little bit interesting and fun and engaging. So I'm here to learn from all of you guys too. I'm here to learn from you all. So all right, guys, I'm going to call it a night, and happy Mother's Day, and we'll see you next time. Peace.